At a time when the world of superhero cinema needed them the most, Marvel's first family has returned. But is this a fresh start for the MCU or another fan-forced failure? The Fantastic Four First Steps is a bold direction for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, introducing us to quite possibly the most important characters in Marvel's comic book pantheon in a story that is completely removed from the main universe, allowing the film to feel standalone without the restrictions or support of the shared universe storytelling that put them on the map. This freedom allowed director Matt Shakman to craft a masterful film full of awe and wonder with a cast that is truly fantastic. Set against the backdrop of a 1960s-inspired retro-futuristic world, Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four First Steps reintroduces the world to the Fantastic Four. We dive right into the action here as the team have been active as heroes for 4 years already. They are known worldwide as celebrities and protectors, having taken on many members of their iconic rogues gallery already, including Mole Man. Now they must face their biggest challenge yet. Quite literally. When the enigmatic Silver Surfer appears to herald the arrival of Galactus, the team is forced to balance their roles as heroes, adventurers, and saviors while testing their bond as a family. Family is the driving force of this film. It's such a core aspect of these characters that has been so hard to nail in previous iterations. With a cast this talented with this much chemistry, the familial bond feels effortless. It was no easy task finding 4 actors that can bring these roles to life while also being able to make the family aspect feel real, and this is a magic combination. The biggest question mark going into this movie was Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. A lot of people were underwhelmed by the casting and didn't really see him as Reed. Well, I will say that when you watch the movie, you will see that not only is Pedro giving you a masterful performance, but he is giving you the quintessential Reed Richards from the comics. Watching him feels like a wonderful blend of Matt Fraction's Reed in characterization, living in a Jack Kirby-inspired world. He is the leader of the team and the one person on the planet that everyone turns to when faced with the unknown. This adds so much weight to the performance as we see Pedro grapple with Reed's desire to solve all problems while trying to figure out the greatest challenge of his lifetime: fatherhood. Helping him carry the weight is Vanessa Kirby as Susan Storm, who is simply perfect. There's no other word that more adequately describes her performance. Previous Sue Storms have never been able to really nail all aspects of the character before. Sue is a scientist, an empath, an explorer, a diplomat, a leader, a dreamer, a powerhouse. But most importantly, she's a mother. A mother in the literal sense, but also a mother to the world and to her fantastic family. She's the voice that fills our hearts with warmth. She makes us feel like we can do anything. Kirby understood the assignment, carrying the film at times and showing us shades of this character that we have yet to see on the big screen until now. She approaches the character in a way that is strong but vulnerable, showing the fear, stress, and joy of motherhood. Sue is impressive, not for what she can do, but because of who she is as a person, and Vanessa Kirby owns that part of the role. Now moving on to my personal favorite member of the Fantastic Four, and that is the ever-loving blue-eyed thing, Benjamin Jacob Grimm, portrayed in this film by the Bear star Eben Moss-Bacharach. The Bear has been my favorite show for the past 3 years, and Eben was a large part of that. So when he was cast as Ben, I was excited to see him put his mark on this very important character. And Eben does not disappoint, as he embodies all of the qualities of Ben that make him special to so many comic readers. Ben is a rock. I mean that literally, of course, but also figuratively. He's the type of person who puts the weight of his family on his shoulders and tries to carry as much of the weight as possible. An uplifting and inspirational figure that's carrying around a deep, profound sadness. What's really impressive was just how much depth Eben was able to convey through his performance. He made Ben feel real, putting the positive aspects of the character on the surface while giving you glimpses into the tragic side of his story. It's the small moments that sold me on this performance. A longing look, a brief touch on the shoulder, a tender aside. This is Ben Grimm, and he will be there for his family no matter what. Now, with that being said, this group was lacking some heat, if you will. Luckily, Joseph Quinn was more than willing to provide some as the hot-headed but well-meaning Johnny Storm. Quinn gives us a more layered Johnny who isn't afraid to go beyond the more shallow aspects of the character. Johnny's the quintessential little brother, adding much-needed levity to some really heavy times. The humor never feels forced or mean-spirited, as this Johnny is still Johnny, except he understands the gravity of situations a lot better and wants to do his part. I love the chemistry between Johnny and Ben. They actually feel like real brothers here, which is a much welcome change from the constant bickering of previous iterations. I mean, they still rib each other, but in a way that is a lot more playful and fun. Like Reed, this Johnny feels a lot like Matt Fraction's Johnny Storm in the best ways possible. You see the shades of immaturity, but he wants to help, and I'm excited to see more of this version of the character because I think out of all the cast, he has a lot more room to grow and stretch his legs story-wise. Challenging our heroes is the giant planet-eating purple guy named Galactus, and his loyal herald, the Silver Surfer. Julia Garner is really wonderful as Shalabal, presenting a cold, detached force against a warm, familial unit. This movie gets so much right about the Surfer, especially in terms of her power and just how insanely strong and fast she is. I was really impressed by the visuals of the character because the effects are flawless, despite a lot of people complaining based off of how she appeared in one trailer. Could a lot of the Shalabal stuff have been accomplished by Norrin Radd as Silver Surfer? Yes, but I think Shalabal was chosen to play against Johnny, and it works for the story, so I think it's a change that is a welcome one. Julia breathes so much life into this character, especially in her big emotional moments. Speaking of big, we have to talk about Ralph Ineson, who is larger than life as Galactus, a looming presence that is felt from the first utterance of his name. He's a horrifying force that looks like he was ripped right out of the pages of a Jack Kirby comic book. Ineson's booming voice will absolutely fill you with dread. The sense of scale is so impressive when you have a character like Galactus that is adapted so faithfully here. I think scaling is very important, and that is something that the film absolutely nails. Because let's face it, comic book Galactus is a little goofy. He's a big purple guy with a big head who binge eats planets. However, Ineson is able to make it believable and scary at that. His presence is terrifying, especially when we're first introduced to him in the film. I think a lot of the praise needs to be given to director Matt Shakman, who clearly went into this movie with a strong vision and admiration for the source material, and it shows in every frame. This is a Marvel movie unlike any other and should serve as the new standard moving forward. Being set on a different world unshackled Shakman creatively and allowed him to give us a Fantastic Four film that is a love letter to the works of Jack Kirby. This movie felt like it was made with a lot of love and care, not just from Shakman, but all the way down to production design, set deck, costumes, and even the extras. This felt like a team coming together to execute a vision, and they succeeded on all fronts. Like I said, even the extras are fantastic, and they make this fantastical world feel tangible. Everyone committing to the retro aesthetic vibe of this Earth. Michael Giacchino's score is a huge part of the success of this film, as he just makes everything feel so epic. He gives such a heroic purpose, and I think his music informs so much of this story that it is a character in and of itself. Now, you've heard me mention Jack Kirby a lot in this review, and that is because his influence is baked into the DNA of this film. For those of you who are unaware, Jack the King Kirby was the most influential artist in comics history. His vision shaped every corner of the Marvel Universe, and his creativity was unmatched. He co-created the Fantastic Four, and he put a lot of himself into these characters, especially the character of Ben Grimm, who's often considered an allegory for Kirby himself, who injected a lot of his life and his history into Ben's character, including giving Ben his father's first and middle name, as well as having Jack's name, Jacob, as his middle name as well. While Kirby is highly regarded in the comic community, he's not as well known to the general public, and this movie looks to push his influence to the forefront for all to see, and that means a lot to someone like me, as well as the larger comic book community. Again, this movie felt like it was made with a lot of love and care. One of my only real drawbacks is that I feel the movie actually needed to be a little longer. The first act is a little choppy, and you could definitely feel the cuts here and there, and I would have liked to have fleshed out some of the characters just a little bit more, maybe having one or two more scenes. But beyond that, I think the pacing is actually pretty great as the movie gets going and doesn't stop, but when it needs to pause for emotional scenes, it definitely takes that beat to make you feel. A big part of this movie is the inclusion of Sue's pregnancy and the character of Franklin Richards, and I think this film does a marvelous job at conveying the overarching theme of family, while focusing on the more niche theme of parenthood. Galactus and Silver Surfer are even used as a broad analogy for pregnancy in a sense, preparing to face so many unknowns that can change your life forever. And it's definitely scary. Franklin's inclusion galvanizes the bond of this family and adds layers to all four leads in completely different ways. I think it really does a great job of showing how being a parent can be scary and challenging, but also beautiful and wondrous. Wonder is actually a great way to describe this film as a whole. While Superman was a film about hope, the hope of a brighter tomorrow, the hope in humanity, the Fantastic Four First Steps is about awe and wonder. We marvel at what we can achieve as a person, as a family, and as a society. I really hope that this is the first steps in a bold new direction for Marvel, one that's not hindered by laborious interconnectivity where everything looks and feels the same. I hope the future of comic book cinema learns the right lessons from Superman and Fantastic Four and begin to embrace the more fantastical side of the source material. For Marvel, hopefully that is continuing to embrace the visual legacy of Jack Kirby. This movie succeeds because it is a standalone film that feels complete. Anyone can walk into this movie and understand everything. No homework required. So with that being said, what did I think of Fantastic Four First Steps? Well, out of 5 giant Galactus head popcorn buckets, I am giving the Fantastic Four First Steps 4.5 out of 5. Honestly, if you're a fan of the Fantastic Four, this movie is everything you could have wanted out of these characters and more. I think Marvel 100% finally got the formula right, and I am excited to see where these characters go from here.